Hello! In this video we're going to talk through some of the dynamic charting features that we have embedded here within the Deepdive UI. The first thing we're going to cover is when you click in the top right corner of each one of these charts, the more options, three little dots, you'll get an expand option to ultimately get a full screen view of every single metric or chart that we have within Deepdive. And one thing that will stick out straight away is that if you hover over the given data points in a chart, you'll be able to see the actual underlying data that go into a given data point on a chart to really see what's going on in detail. Another thing that you can do is manipulate the zoom or vision that you're really looking at within a chart. So one thing that you can do is manipulate the y-axis. So for the revenue retention here, if I only want to look at the revenue retention starting at 125%, I can insert that here to take a closer look and ultimately create a better picture of this metric. Or an alternative way of doing that is by dragging and dropping like a viewfinder, or like what part of the chart do I actually want to look at, and zooming in on only that part of the chart by dragging and dropping a rectangle like that. If you want to reverse that, a little reset zoom button will come up here in the top right that you can click and you'll be put back to the default zoom. Another feature that we have built out here within Deepdive is what we call synthetic forecasts, which you can click here on the little show forecast button, where we embed these little dotted lines, which are what we call at headline synthetic forecasts, where we take the historical weighted average, the black line, and extend cohorts where we don't run out of data, and given that they've only been around for 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 months, with what is the historical weighted average from where the data runs out, and where will these cohorts most likely end up down the line. And that is what these kind of historical little dotted lines ultimately mean, given that these two recent newer cohorts, where we only have 2 to 3 months of data for, are outperforming some of the older ones. They will most likely come in at a higher rate further down the line as well. This becomes very helpful when you look at things like cumulative gross profit per customer, which is our take on customer lifetime value, or cumulative gross profit over CAC, which ultimately is our take on is LTV to CAC, where you can then compare, like, hey, for these recent orange data series, we only have a couple months of data. Where will they come in most likely further down the line? Another feature that we have built in here is if you have a very noisy data set, you can create 2 or 3 or 6 months averages that, again, really just reduce the noise within the data to create these rolling averages and make it easier to kind of read out where are these metrics really heading over time. And then lastly, any single chart where you have like a legend below it, you can select or deselect items within this chart. So when I look at the month-over-month revenue change and I only want to look at, hey, what is the new revenue that this business is acquiring in a given month, I can deselect all these other individual pieces and end up only with the new revenue for a business in a given month. Or an alternative place to do this is within the segmentation charts, where if I only want to look at one given segment or only want to compare the medium to the high segment, I can compare by deselecting these other segments. I'm only left with, in this case, the purple medium and the yellow high segment. And then lastly, one thing that you can do is take a screenshot of every single one of these charts within kind of the view that you just created. If you click on the 3 little dots and click on the download chart button, and you'll have the chart downloaded into your download folder of your computer and can embed it into any report you like. I hope that these features are as helpful as they are to you, and that you enjoyed this video.